this is Cody Irons, and about a year ago I made a video that detailed making a small 180-degree turn that can be used to race diecast cars in Fusion 360. Today we are going to go through the motions of making some profiles, adding constraints, and then creating bodies using tools in Fusion 360. So the first thing we're going to do is create a sketch for our first profile. As we create the sketch, we are going to be adding constraints, so our sketch will always be fully constrained. We're also going to be adding user parameters so that we can change the appropriate values as we go along. So first off, we're going to do our outline. And we'll go ahead and go up here to the modify, change parameters, and we're going to add some user parameters. So some of the things we want to use: we know how wide we want the lanes of our track. We know how tall we want the track walls to be. And we do know the angle that the track walls are to the floor of the track. So track angle, and we'll change our units here from millimeters to degrees. Okay. It's not so important what these are, just some sort of, as long as you have these set, you'll be able to get your values that you want. So first we're going to set our floor, track width, track wall height, track wall height, track angle, track angle. Now you can see Fusion 360 has already added one constraint for us. It assumed that we want this to be flat, and so it applied this constraint here, which this constraint is a horizontal constraint. So if we start moving, if we attempt to rotate this whole thing to be at an angle, it won't happen because this constraint is in place. That's fine for now, but it's important to remember that later on. We're going to add a new constraint to this guy. We're going to add a midpoint constraint. So what that's going to do is, first we're going to pick a point, and then we're going to pick where we want that midpoint to go. So in doing that, I picked the origin that was the first point, and then I picked the line that I wanted to snap to that midpoint. And so that happened, basically. So now all of this is turned black, so our sketch is currently fully constrained. So there's some other stuff we want to outline here. We want this track to be multiple lanes, so we're going to add some construction lines so that we can use the mirror tool. So we want this track bed to be a certain width away from the one that's going to be next to it, so we can go ahead and draw that there. We can mouse over this, and we can see that Fusion suddenly goes here when it's at the midpoint of that line we just drew. So if we click this, we'll go ahead and create a midpoint constraint, which we want because we're going to be mirroring. So we're going to drag this down, and we're just going to give it some kind of length that's fixed. We'll go ahead and enter. And this is not black yet because we haven't constrained the thing that it is constrained to. So you can tell that this dot here is solid black, and this dot here is white. It's not filled in, which means that this can be, grabbed and moved, so we can make this longer or shorter. But once we lock this distance in, then we will be able to, of course, there you go. We will be able to see that this whole thing becomes fully constrained. So let's just make this, 6.5. Okay, so that's fully constrained, it's all locked in. And we're going to go up here to our modify, change parameters, and we can actually see these parameters that we've been adding. And we can see that 6.351 set right here. And I believe we can go in here. Can we save that one up there? Maybe not. Let's try it. Let's add a user parameter. Let's call it track spacing. I thought there was a way that we could do that, but since we're doing this live and not on a script, we'll make that 6.5. Come down here. Let's make that track spacing. There we go. I updated that. All right, so now that's track spacing. I think there's a way that you can make this go directly into the user parameters, but not 100%. Anyway, we're going to now mirror this guy across this line. So we're going to say create, mirror. We're going to double click this guy. It's going to catch all our profiles. If it didn't catch one for some reason, this one is collecting, but sometimes you have to hold Control or Shift to click to get them to show up. And we're going to mirror this here. Okay. So now if we make changes to this, it's going to be reflected in the mirror of that. And so we're actually going to go ahead and connect these. We're going to get rid of our construction. So now we made a solid across there. And we're actually going to add construction back. We're going to do this track spacing again. That's fine. Okay, do another midpoint. We'll make this whatever. It's fine. Because we're just using this for reflecting. And then we're going to go mirror. Get all those guys. Put them again. And we are going to go up here and connect them. So now we have this profile that looks like we're going to be making a 4-lane track here. So one thing we can do, see, I guess I can show 2 ways to do this, but you can use this profile directly, and Fusion can make essentially, I'll just show real quick. So we'll finish this, and we can, maybe it'll let me extrude this to show. Yeah, so that one's profile. So you may find yourself in different tabs up here at the top. And if you're in the Surface tab and you click Extrude, you'll find that you're able to extrude these thin things, right? So it's important to know that these don't have any actual thickness to them. And so there'll be extra steps that you have to do. But if you find that you're in this position, and you've already created this body, it's not really a body, it's a surface body, there is a tool to thicken these, and it is hidden. Where is it hidden in the mesh? Modify. Oh, I should have looked this one up first. It is hidden. I know there's a way to quickly look. Create. Oh, here we go. So it's in the surface mesh under create, thicken. And so if you've created one of these things, face, new body, direction. That's interesting. Can I pick the whole thing? No. Why was it different earlier? That's kind of funny. Well, maybe because I accidentally clicked that. I think I guess click this. Select the whole body. Okay. So we will select the whole body, and we'll say how thick we want this to be. So in this case, we're going to say 1.4. And so now our body is 1.4 millimeters thick. And we actually have, you notice a different icon here. So we have our original mesh body, and now we have a solid body. So this is solid. We can 3D print this. This is good. If we didn't do that step, we go back to our sketch, and we're in our solid tab, and I'm not going to get into the details any more than I have to here, but if we're in our solid tab and we want to extrude a solid thing, we have to have sort of these completed profiles. So what we can do is we can make use of our timeline down here, and we can just right click, edit our sketch. We're right back in where we were editing. We can use this offset tool. We click the offset tool, and we highlight over this, and it's going to go ahead and give us our sketch in a sort of a similar fashion to what we were doing with the surface tools. And in this, we're going to say we want this to be negative 1.4. Okay, and we haven't added this to our user parameters yet, but we had already gone over those user parameters. So we're going to connect these up to close this sketch, this profile, and you notice it changes color. Now it's dark. That means that it is a fully enclosed sketch. So when we've done that, we come back out, and the Fusion 360 put our cursor back here at the end, which means we've still created these other guys, even though we already created these meshes and stuff. So if you look here, you see that. If you look here, you see that. Those were both created from using just part of that profile we sketched. But now we have this profile. So we are going to extrude, and I guess I already had it pre-selected, but if you didn't have it pre-selected, you would click this, and we can pull this out some distance and say, okay. So now we have essentially the same thing, but we just did it a different way. So I can have both of these here. You can see, and there should be no differences in them. But let's say you don't want it just a straight track. Say you want some kind of curve, some kind of shape, like an up or down. So we have tools at the top. Revolve. Let's say we want to use the Revolve tool. Revolve is going to rotate our profile around a line that's out here in space, but we don't have any other lines right now. So what we can do is we can add one. So we'll go ahead and create a sketch on our front profile. And then let's make a line, I don't know, up here. It's not constrained, but we're just showing an example. So we're going to revolve this profile around this axis. Okay, well that made a pretty interesting thing. I guess we could put a car in there and shake it around in a circle. We can change how far it is going by changing this angle here. So that's a 180. It's kind of interesting. 45. 45 is kind of a little mini launcher. 20. It's maybe like some sort of transition from a straight to another straight, and you want it to be angled. Okay, but everything is fixed around this line that we drew up here. So that maybe isn't necessarily what we want. Okay, so what if we want to make it like come out into the distance and squiggle around? So let's draw a line that comes out this way. And we're going to use, let's use a 3-point arc. So what that means is we can draw 3 points. The first one we're going to put over our origin because we know our profile is touching that origin. And then I'm going to put the other one out here. And then this is going to sort of dictate what size of circle the arc is being pulled from. So I'm just going to go, I'm just going to go like this. Now, if we just go to use this, and let's use our sweep tool. Sweep tool is going to take our profile and attempt to follow some path. We can also make this a little more complicated or more constrained by having a path and a guide rail, or by having a path and a guide surface if there's a surface we want our profile to follow. So we're just going to go with single path here. And we're going to pick the single path, and hopefully it works. Okay. So you can see that this one kind of dips down and then launches up. And that's not really what we want. So we're going to say okay here. And we're actually going to use one of the cool things that Fusion 360 lets you do. And that is we're going to go back and edit this path that's being used to make this thing. And we can actually edit it from, let's add this back, get rid of these. We can actually edit this here and watch it update live. So I'm going to right click this sketch where we drew our line, and I'm going to say show dimension. And there are no dimensions. So we're going to go back in here and we're going to edit the sketch. And we're going to add some dimensions. So we're going to add constraints that we can then potentially see and use to make stuff change. So the first one is going to be, we're going to click our arc. And this is the radius of the circle that we are messing with. So I'm just going to change this to like, say, 100. It's pretty big. I'm going to pull this circle so that this is straight. So for this to come out straight, we need the center of the circle to be directly over this origin point. So I'm going to go to a horizontal vertical constraint. I'm going to say I want this to be over this. Now the only other constraint we don't have is how long this arc is. So I'm just going to click these two, and I'm going to set a distance of, let's say, 90. Okay, so now we're going to finish this. And you can see this updated here. And so now we're looking at this thing here. So now if we wanted to change this, let's say we want this radius to be 200. You can see that now our circle that generates this arc that we're following for 90 is 200 distance. So what that means is 90 doesn't go as far, so our angle is much lower here. If we wanted to go farther, we could probably set this to max value is probably going to be, let's see, 400 would be the maximum around the circle, so that'd be bad because that'd be the diameter. I don't know what fusion would do. So let's set this to 200 and see what that does. Maybe it won't work. Okay. So I wonder if that looks like a 45, maybe. No, it's a straight line distance between those two. Yeah, I don't know how to make it constrain the arc length. That'd be kind of interesting to look up. I'm sure it's possible. But so now we have this 200 distance and this. It looks like we have a pretty good launch going up that way. Actually, if we wanted to see what that angle is, we can go here after this, and we can create a sketch on the side, and we can actually project this model. So projecting is taking something and putting it as sort of like a 2D representation on our sketch plane. So I'm actually going to project this body, and I'll show you guys what that does. Say okay. And now if I hide the body, you can see we have the outline there on the sketch that we're creating. And since we have that, we can actually come in here and put some construction stuff. And we can calculate, let's do that. Let's add a perpendicular constraint here. And then let's see, I should be able to, let's do another one from here down to here. There we go. Okay, whoops. Okay, let's add a coincident constraint just to put this here. And then you can see this one gave us a tangent constraint. So this line is tangent to the top, very top part here of this circle. And so what we can do is we can add a dimensional thing here. Oh, that's not, I thought it was gonna, oh, there's usually a prompt that pops up, but I actually checked the box, did not show me that prompt. So this is, because it's in parentheses, we can't change it. It's just showing us the angle that's up here. So likewise, let's see, 30, but really this other guy, this other angle is kind of the, what is the launch angle? I thought it was going to be 60. It's kind of funny. But we can actually show those dimensions, and it will give my body back. And those will show up in our sketches here. So, and these should update automatically as I adjust this. So if I bring this back down to 100, oh, whoops, that's not what I wanted. That got all wonky because, that's kind of funny, because I made this value less than what this value is. Because we don't have any sort of constraints going back and forth between these two, which we could do, but we would want to do some math to make sure we do all the right values, the appropriate values. So I'm going to set this back down to 100. I'm going to set this guy down to maybe, I don't know, 100. Let me bring this down to 50. It looks like our body changed enough so that our dimensional thing didn't update. It's a great video. Edit sketch. So let's say we want to see the angle that we're actually launching the cars at. We can go here and create another sketch that looks at the side profile. And what we can do is we can project this line into our current sketch. And what that'll let us do is construct some lines here that will be able to give us the angle of that top guy. So right now our launcher, our ramp is launching cars at a 29-degree angle. If we wanted to increase that, I believe we would decrease the radius up here. Let's see if we can do that while we're in sketch mode. We can. So if we decrease this radius, that will get sharper. So if we go down to 90, it shrunk. It got bigger. Hey, it's working. So if you're lucky, you can do this, and then you'll be able to change this dumb thing. Alright, so let's make this 90. And it changed down. Excellent. Okay. Too bad it took so many tries. 70. 65. Okay, so now we're looking at this. We can actually bring our body back, and we can see this update live. 50. Oh, they're 45.2. 50 and 65, nice round numbers. So now we have a 45-degree launch angle. Okay, and we don't need to see those if we got them how we like them. So this is going to launch our car's 45-degree angle into the air. Okay, so right now if we set it up, it would just flop over. So let's add some pillars in the front. To do that, we're going to create a sketch on the floor. We are going to project this body into the floor, or onto the floor. We can ditch the body. Let's create... Do we want to make it all the way across? Sure. So let's make the, you know what, let's make it like this. Let's just make these 30 and 30. And then we'll do the other one too. We could mirror, but we're just gonna go like this. So there I was typing 30, hitting tab, typing 30, hit enter. We have our black boxes, which are constrained on this corner and on this corner, so they're fully constrained. Finish our sketch, bring our body back. So now we can see we have these squares on the floor, and we know they're directly underneath here, so we're gonna use a fun thing where we can say we want to extrude this. We want it to go up, but we can say the extent type, and we can say to object, and that object can be the bottom of this guy. And so it extruded up and connected up there. Now I don't think, yeah, to object. No, it kind of looks like it can only be one or the other. That's unfortunate. That's fine. So we won't select two profiles. We will just select the first profile. And we're going to make sure there's a join, and so that guy joined there. We're going to bring this other guy back, this sketch back. We're going to do this again. Okay. And you know what, might as well, let's just make it all the way across. We'll just go ahead and extrude this guy all the way across here. Change our extent type to to object. We go over there, join, it made it all nice and solid. Now let's, for fun, let's see if we can screw this whole thing up by changing, oh, this one's not showing our dimensions. Show dimension. So now we can see our angle down here. Let's say somebody said, no, I want it to be a little bigger. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to make my radius 80 so that I can make this longer. Let's make that 90. And you can see Fusion 360 automatically updated all this. And we know the angle that we're going to launch at, which is kind of funny. So yeah, when it's working, it works really well. Sometimes it's kind of annoying. So let's bump this up to 150. That's cool. And actually, if we go back into this sketch here, we can draw our dimension down here. So we can see how, finish that sketch, we can see how tall our launcher is and how far out the launcher goes. So this can help you figure out, you know, if you have dimensions that are specific to fitting on some print bed. If you want to print it in this orientation, you never know. Let's see, so we go like this. Let's go ahead and shrink this back down. If we bring this down, this gets tighter. That's a 90 distance. Let's make them go, whoops, let's not do that, cancel. Let's make them travel 150 millimeters on our ramp. But let's bring this down by making this go up. So let's go up to 300. So it's a 30-degree ramp. Scroll out here. A little tighter than that, so go 250. 34-degree ramp. Let's go down to 200. 40. Okay, fine. So finish sketch. So we got our pillars. They're going across there, mighty pillars. We want to add some connectors on the front real quick. We're going to go back here. We're going to add our dimensions for our pillars. You know what, we're also going to add track width. or we're gonna thickness track thickness. Because this was like 4, okay. A new user parameter. That's going to be connector top width, since we have sort of trapezoidal sizes, and 26.35. Then we're going to add connector bottom width, and that's going to be connector top width minus 4. And then we're going to have connector thickness, which we're going to put 2.1. Okay, is there any other settings for the connector? I don't believe so. Okay, so we're going to come in here and draw a connector. So we're just going to go something like this, and something like this. And then we're going to connect those with a construction line. And we're going to make sure the midpoint of that construction line comes up here to the midpoint of this guy. And we're going to give it a horizontal constraint. Oh, whoop, not that. We want to give it a vertical constraint. So let's pull this way, and then give it a vertical constraint. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be the track thickness. This line is going to be our, that's unfortunate, track bottom, let's see, connector bottom width. But notice how this inverted. So when we were dragging that other guy, it got confused on what we wanted. Oops, stop that. Let's see here. Maybe I can drag that over there if I go select. No, it's completely mad now. So we're going to delete that guy. Delete this guy. We're just going to delete all the things. Dumb thing. Let's see. Yes. Track thickness. Thank you. Alright. Stay like that. Sketch our dimension. Cancel that. Let's put our construction line back. Okay, we're going to midpoint this bottom guy. Okay, so we're still good. Now we can dimension this to connector bottom width, and then we can dimension this top guy. Connector top width. So this is here, this is there, this is parallel. We need to know how tall our connector is. So we have a connector thickness. And we're almost constrained, but these are actually allowed to be any length, so it can be kind of wonky. So I think if we go equal, there we go. So now this whole thing is constrained right here. That was a bit of a mess, but that's all right. So now we're going to select this, select that. I'm going to mirror those over this line. Okay. And then I'm going to select that one, this one, I'm holding control, this one, and oh, and ruin all that. Get out of your circle, nobody likes you. Mirror, I'm going to reselect those, double click, double click, double click, double click. Mirror the line, this one. Okay. Now we have all these new sketches, nice up front. So they're hidden, we're going to bring them out. You can see them. And we are going to extrude all these guys 30 that way. We will join, but I think they're not quite touching, so it's not going to know what to do. Then what we're going to do is get rid of our sketch. Come in here and we're going to extrude these two to the object, that guy. We'll do that again for this next one. Oh, we made that all thick so we can't see it. We'll extrude these next two. To this one. We will extrude these next two. This one. And then we will extrude these last two. To that one. And then we're going to go ahead and extrude this guy all the way across here. And we're just going to join it and it'll be fine. Okay, so now we can stick some connectors in there. Those connectors come out the other side. If we look from the profile, we can see that all those connections are lower than this, so it'll be kind of wobbly. So what we can do is we can just extrude this bottom part down to the bottom of that. Okay, so now we shouldn't have to worry with that. It'll sit nice and flat. And let's say we want to add some connectors to the front here so that we can have some track running off there to potentially, you know, hold something steady, or the cars can land. We can show our sketch. Oh, you know what? Let's do it like this. Let's create a sketch directly on this guy. Create a sketch here, and then we will project. Let's just project this guy, these guys on here. Okay. There should be a bottom line there, so we'll finish the sketch. And I should be able to extrude this. -30. Okay. And it went all the way through. Let's bring our other dimensions up. So here's the beauty, right? We can always go back in here and change these values. So let's say we want this to be shorter. Let's say we just want it to be 60. Fusion recalculated everything and just put it all together. And I know that's really cool. 80. 100. And this way we can sort of dial in exactly what we want. 70.